Hello and welcome to Epiphytic Cacti. Today we're going to talk about a hybrid that has no identification. I want to be sort of clear about this particularly because this is not something that I got that was a named hybrid from someone and then it bloomed and then it was incorrect. Sometimes the power of a beautiful flower can actually overcome the fact that it doesn't have a name. I got it as a plant 2 years ago, and when the picture that it was sold with, like that was on there, didn't really look so much like this flower, to be honest. It has like similar colors, but I think that it was just a little, it was a little different. I think that the colors captured my attention because it was like this deep sort of violet with this deep red accompanied by kind of a burnt orange color. And to me, that was so unusual and it was so striking that I just wanted the plant. I didn't really care that it didn't have a name. I just wanted it. So I bought the plant. Again, like I said, personal enjoyment. It's something that, like, I look at this flower and I just have my socks are knocked off because I think that much of it. This plant, it doesn't truly hang. It grows just upright with these kind of like short, fat, wavy branches. And I really kind of like this because I like this little cedar box that I have it in. This is actually the only Epiphyllum plant in my whole entire collection that is in a 12-inch pot. The only plant. And what happened is when I got it, it was in like one of those little black gallon plastic. They're like long. I don't like those pots. I know a lot of people like to grow in those pots, but I prefer the shorter, shallower pots because I feel like it's much less likely to get like waterlogged, particularly in my area. It was so dry. I mean, like, the plant was way too big. Its root system was way too much for that pot. And so what ended up happening is that I immediately had to repot it. So the first year that I had it, it didn't really bloom because it was kind of past its blooming season. When I got it, it had 2 buds in it, but the buds just aborted from being in the mail. So I saw the buds and I saw the potential, but I didn't get to see the flower. And I actually think that when I repotted it, I tried to jam it into a pot that was too small for it. And I think I kind of noticed that fairly quickly, so I ended up having to repot it again pretty quickly. It's just one of those hybrids that grows really fast, and it always has kind of this really healthy root system that's accompanying it, a large root system for an epiphyllum. And one of the sad things about this is while this is the only flower this year for this size of a plant, it did have way more buds coming out on it. But on the unfortunate event, these containers, they are actually like right underneath some gutters that are not really draining right. So there's just like all this water that just dumps right into the pot, and it just, it's a little bit too shady and like there was too much water. And so like all those buds just kind of aborted, and this was the only one that made it. But boy, am I ever glad one bud made it, because what a stunning flower. To me, it doesn't really get much better than this flower. This flower is just magnificently beautiful to me. Because it rained last night, you can actually see that the petals here, they're a little bit floppy. But I mean, that is just, every time I look at this kid, it's like I lose my breath a little bit. It just reminds me of like, it just, this scene in The Matrix where like the woman walks by in the red dress. It reminds me of that. It's like a woman in a red dress, and like a perfect red dress, just a gorgeous, gorgeous woman. That's just what it reminds me of. I don't quite know what the deal is with that, but it's really, I mean, it's just so special. Yeah. So if we kind of come in here and we look at these outer petals, you can see that they are edged with kind of a violet here, but it's just the darkest red. It's so red that I think it might actually look violet, accompanied by a lighter midstripe, which has just hints of orange. You can see it here. There's hints of orange at the end of there, but it's like a burnt orange. And it's just so beautiful. If we come up here, you can see that too, that just gorgeous color combination with that slight violet and that super deep red, and then just this burnt orange. And you see that like pretty prominently, I think, on the outer petals here. And then whenever we get into the inner petals, oh gosh, look at that petal. That is just a special kind of color. So then you can see that when we get into the inner petals here, you can see that they actually have down in the throat, they get even more sort of, you know, very, very, very violet, kind of it's an intense violet, a fuchsia. It's just gorgeous. And then it kind of goes into that same kind of mid-striping, although a little bit stronger, where here it's red, but as it goes out, it starts to fade into that burnt orange. And you can see oh gosh, it just is. It's just so special. And then you can see the stamen here, you know, they're kind of a reddish color, pinkish reddish color there. And then the stigma is actually more white. So it didn't really carry over any of that coloration, the red coloration, which you sometimes see. A back view here of the petals. You can see that the back petals kind of do something they're a little bit funky, they're a little bit messy. On this flower, I do not mind that. There are sometimes on other flowers where I don't necessarily like it, but on this flower, I'm perfectly okay with this kind of, you know, the back petals kind of recurving down like that. I think it just adds an element of just absolute gorgeousness here. I mean, just look at that. It is just, I don't know what it is exactly, but I seem to have somehow been blessed with just some of the most beautiful unnamed hybrids imaginable. Somehow I get super, super lucky with some unnamed hybrids. And that is, I can't even, like it literally sort of renders me speechless and takes my breath away. And sometimes if you've never seen an Epiphyllum flower in person, like if you had never seen one and this was the first thing that you, like the first flower that you ever saw, you'd be done right then and there. You would have like hundreds of them in like a week. It is just, I mean, look at that kid. Beautiful, beautiful. So if you can imagine here, like I said, this plant actually had a ton of buds that aborted. But to me, it's one of those things because it has the potential to throw a lot of buds. And we'll see maybe next year, you know, like how many flowers it can actually get on it that it can sustain. So what I'm going to do with this guy next year is when he comes outside, I'm going to get him acclimatized, but then I'm going to move him into an area that gets a little bit more sunlight. So I'm just going to put it in a lot more light, and then we'll see how many I can get. But if you can just imagine this plant just covered in flowers that look just like this, that is just, I don't even know. That's just an incredible, incredible sight to behold. So but anyway, I hope that you've enjoyed this Epiphyllum hybrid that does not have a name as much as I have. Thank you for watching, and happy cacti growing.